Malcontent News is a team of journalists, activists, and researchers with three key missions. A commitment to show an unfiltered view of the before, during, and after of key events, live, as it happens. To defend the First Amendment using our rights of a free press. And to amplify the voices of underrepresented individuals including Black, Indigenous, persons of color, and the LGBTQIA+ community. Our team is committed to seeking equality for all and holding those in power accountable. The easiest way to support Malcontent News is to bookmark our website at malcontentnews.com, like and follow us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, and follow us on Twitter, TikTok, Twitch, Instagram, and in the Google News app. To provide financial support, you can become a patron, make a one-time donation through Venmo, or link your Twitch account to your Amazon Prime account and use your free subscription to subscribe to Malcontent News. Thank you for supporting independent journalism and for being a malcontent.
Good afternoon, malcontents, good evening, depending on where you are. I hope everybody is well tonight. I want to say hello to everybody who is watching us on Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Hello. Now, if I look over on this screen, hello, everybody over there in TikTok land. That's right. You can watch us on 5 different channels. This is the Malcontent News. Happy half hour, 45 minutes-ish. And so we're off to the races, and with that, I think we're just going to go ahead and jump into our first story. Our first story takes us out to Washington, D.C., where earlier today, 17 congresspersons were arrested. They were arrested outside the Supreme Court. People were protesting the overturning of Roe versus Wade, including members of Congress. Protesters gathered on First Street Northeast, and they were blocking traffic. Capitol Police said they issued their 3 warnings for people to leave. They'd be arrested if they didn't. 35 people arrested. Among those, 17 congresspersons. They were cited for crowding, obstructing, or incommoding. I like to think I'm a smart guy, and I'm like, what is incommoding? Courtney, I see you in the comments over here. Hello. So glad you're here. Kellen, Carol, the old gang's all here. This is fantastic. And a hello again out to you there in TikTok world. Incommoding means to inconvenience. I seriously had to look it up. What the heck is incommoding? Is that like you're in the bathroom, you're taking too long? I guess that would be an inconvenience. Bad joke. That's a dad joke. I know. Come for the news, stay for the dad jokes. The House passed a bill last week that would codify reproductive rights for women in the United States. This is dead on arrival in the Senate. It's not going to pass. I've seen the comments. I've seen the tweets about this. It hurts my brain. I want to give everybody a quick reminder here. The People's Convoy, back in March, they withdrew their right to protest in Washington, D.C. in March 2022. They put in a permit, and they said, yeah, you know what? Forget it. This is too hard. We're not doing a permit. We're not coming to Washington, D.C. All right. And on March 14th, they entered the city. They intentionally blocked traffic, including around the Pentagon, while the United States wasn't exactly very sure at that time how far Russia was going to go with things. Things were pretty tense around March 14th. We were all biting our collective Cold War nails at that time, if your memory is short. What did Capitol Police do? Well, they closed the highway ramps, they blocked the streets, and they asked people for patience. Now, Code of District of Columbia Law 223320 says that the obstruction of public roads or removing milestones is illegal, and I quote, in any manner to obstruct or encroach on a public road. Now, this is different from what people were cited for. Notice I'm using the word cited, not arrested, because I know there's a whole bunch of, they weren't arrested, they weren't handcuffed, they were cited. But there's a difference between this and 221307. 221307 is specifically about protesting. It is specifically about people on their feet. But 223320 is about people in their vehicles. And unlike those, there is no 3 warning rule for people on the 223320. There is, you are blocking the road. You go to jail. You do not pass go. You do not collect $200. You come for the news, you stay for the bad dad jokes. Look, if you're going to pick and choose which issue is acceptable to you to block roadways in protest, then you're part of the problem. The First Amendment does not say the right to assembly, unless you disagree with why people are assembled, and then it's not okay. It says right to assembly. And yes, there is a fine line between blocking a roadway in protest and creating problems, or worse, such as protesting COVID restrictions for the overturning of Roe v. Wade, or you can't make me wear a mask. I'm not going to debate the morality of either point, because that's what they want you to do. That's what they, the South Park they, they're bastards. That's what they want you to do. They don't want you to focus on the real issue. The real issue here isn't Roe v. Wade. The real issue here isn't the People's Convoy. The real issue is, do we have a right to free assembly in the United States or not? If you're going to arrest protesters for blocking the roadway in Washington, D.C., then that should be evenly applied. And if you look at that and go, no, it shouldn't. It should only be applied to the things that I agree with or disagree with, depending on your viewpoint, then you're part of the problem. The laws already exist in Washington, D.C. to do exactly that. And honestly, I don't think that that's really asking for too much. But maybe in this environment, it is. None of these Congress critters are going to face any serious consequences. You know that, I know that, they know that, and they know that. And with that, see, it was a short little story. We're going to go to story number 2. You know, this is a time I just want to remind people, go ahead and spam those hearts, blow up those hearts. Whether you're watching us on TikTok or you're watching us on Facebook, on Twitch, you can use our emotes. By the way, we have emotes on TikTok too. If you become a subscriber, we have the same emotes that are available over there. But go ahead and blow up those hearts and let people know that there's something worthwhile to hear. So something worthwhile to watch, I should say. And really appreciate your support there. In early December of 2021, we predicted, we have an article up on our news site, malcontentnews.com. You can access that, by the way, by going to the Google News app and doing a search for Malcontent News and making us a favorite. In early December of 2021, we predicted that Washington hospitals would reach the point of collapse by January of 2022 because of the Omicron surge. And on January 14, Washington hospitals ran out of all possible options for patients. There was not a bed left in the state, anywhere. And the state was absolutely on the brink of moving to crisis standards of care, like its neighbor in Idaho, like up in Alaska. By the way, Washington State takes a lot of hospital patients from Alaska. I don't know if people really know that, especially if you're not from the area, you're not in the medical world, you wouldn't know that. If you ever watched Deadliest Catch, you know, people who've had serious injuries, or what do? They're flying them to Seattle. They're going to Harborview Medical Center. Washington State picks up a lot of their patients. The Washington Medical Coordination Center is located at Harborview Medical Center, and that has one job. They play Tetris with hospital patients. Their job is to find a bed for a patient when there isn't a bed available, so they can get the care somewhere. And the WMCC back in January came up with a plan, and they worked with the largest hospitals in the state. And what they did was there was a no refusal transfer program. So the largest hospitals in the state, starting on January 14th, said, even though we're full, even though we are way past patient ratios, even though we have nowhere to put them, send them, we'll figure it out. And if we reach a point where we can't figure it out, then we're going to crisis standards of care. That lasted for 3 days, went through 3 hospitals. The state was right on the brink and was able to come back from that. Crisis avoided, right? And here we are, July 19th. And we're actually in worse shape than we were. And I know you're probably going, but this isn't in the news. This is the news. It is in the news. You're hearing about it right now. Harborview Medical Center is at 130% capacity right now. They are out of physical beds. They have people that are in stretchers because there are no beds available. Providence Everett Hospital up in Everett, Washington has 70 boarders. Now, if you're not from the medical community, a boarder is somebody that is admitted to the hospital, is a patient, but there's nowhere to put them. There is no room, there is no bed. So they're in the hallway, they're in the emergency department, they're in the physical therapy room because we've converted the physical therapy room into a hospital ward to temporarily put people there. That's what boarders are. Providence Everett has 70 boarders. If you have no baseline in the medical community, this is insane. This is just beyond the pale for the number to have that many of boarders in there. We talked with Onara Lean. She's the executive director of the WMCC. This is what she had to tell us in an interview we did with her yesterday. Since February 2020, the WMCC has handled over 4,500 patient requests for transfers. The goal, by the way, is 0. They don't want to do any patient transfers. WMCC was not created to play Tetris for a hospital system that is in nationwide collapse. This was designed that if there was an earthquake or a volcano, because we have volcanoes in Washington state, or there was a plane crash, and all of a sudden 300 patients flood into the trauma centers in one part of the state, the WMCC would go into gear and they would play Tetris and figure out where to put people go. In the words of the director, Dr. Mitchell, if they're having to find a place for anybody, then the system is failing already. In January 2022, when things were at their worst, at the Omicron peak, the center was handling over 30 requests a day. Today, this week, the center is handling just as many. And in hospitals in Southwest Washington and in Western Washington, they can't find placement for patients. There's nowhere to put them. Portland, Oregon, too. Portland, Oregon is facing the same problem. So is it this? Is it the Rona? No, it's not the Rona. Surprise! He was going to talk about the Rona. No, it's a little bit, but that's not what it all is. It is a perfect storm of really terrible things. But the biggest issue here in Washington state is Washington state law. Washington is unique in assigning guardianship for Medicare and Medicaid patients who can no longer care for themselves, but have no guardian. So if you're 85 years old, you've had a stroke, you've landed into the hospital, you have no possible chance of going back and living independently, but you have no living kids, you have no living relatives. There is nobody to take care of your affairs and decide what's best for you. Now, most states have a way to handle this. Washington's way of handling this is a dumpster fire, and that might be insulting to dumpster fires. The process to establish guardianship can take more than 6 months. And while that's happening, a person that no longer needs to be in a hospital bed is still sitting or laying in that hospital bed. And they can't free it up. And the hospital then has to care for this person while they're looking for a replacement. There's a secondary problem to this. There's not enough nursing home beds. There's not enough long-term care facility beds in the state of Washington. The State of Washington Hospital Association in a press conference yesterday said they could fix all of this tomorrow. They could get, depending on the hospital, 10 to 20% of patients in their hospitals today and move them out tomorrow. if the state of Washington would either dedicate money and resources to solve, see, it's money, dedicate money and resources to solve this problem, or change the laws. Some of you who followed us for a while go, wait. Governor Inslee said in the spring legislative session they were going to change these laws. They acknowledged this was a problem. Yeah, didn't they? They did say that. You're right. Yeah, they didn't change the laws. So we're stuck in this same boat again. And the WMCC and the Washington State Hospital Association is just completely frustrated at all of this. The next problem, it isn't just the indigent people that are in there. There's a second problem. It's trauma season. If you're not a hospitalist, you don't know this, but summer is trauma season because in the summertime, everybody likes to say, hold my beer and watch this. This is going to be funny. And then, they're in the emergency room. What happened? Well, I told my friend to hold my beer and watch this, and then my hand exploded. Now I can't hold my beer. So it's trauma season. And it isn't just that. People are out, they're doing stuff. They're up on the roof, they're painting, they're fixing, and bad things happen. And finally, we've had 2.5 years of deferred health care. So you have people who have been pushing off going to the hospital for elective procedures, or they couldn't get it. They've been pushed off. They've been pushing off medical care. They haven't taken as good a care for themselves. So when people are showing up to the hospital, they're sicker because they've let things go longer. And in Washington State, as I said, there's just not enough resources left to deal with any of this. And all of this has created just a perfect storm. But wait, there's breaking news. It's about to get worse, not better, a lot worse. COVID? No, this isn't about COVID. It used to be that if you were a boarder, remember I was talking about boarders, people who are in the nursing room, people in the emergency department waiting for a hospital bed. It used to be if you were a boarder and you didn't have a hospital bed, hospitals couldn't bill the insurance company or Medicaid or Medicare you as a hospital patient because you were not admitted. You're not in a ward. You're not in a bed. It doesn't matter that you're a boarder. Because what hospitals were doing is they were holding people in the emergency room because that's cheaper, and they were billing insurance companies as if the person was actually in a ward. And the insurance company said, well, that's just total BS. Our hospital system in the States is so messed up. When the first relief package was passed by, and I'm not blaming Trump. I'm giving you facts. This is not, he's calling out Trump. How dare he blame? I'm not blaming Trump. When the first aid package, relief package was signed in March of 2020, part of what was passed in that package is if somebody was a boarder, didn't have a hospital bed, you could still bill the insurance or the government as if that person was an admitted patient. They did this because they knew the hospitals were going to get overwhelmed. Well, that law, that relief, that change, temporary change of the law is still going. It ends on August 1st. And so all of these hospitals right now, which are holding boarders, are going to have to make some really difficult decisions on patient care because now they're not going to be able to bill as if they are patients admitted in a ward. They're going to have to bill as if they're in the emergency room. This is a huge problem because the thing a lot of people don't understand, people think, oh, the hospitals, they get the government money for those COVID patients. They make all that money from that. That's not true. Hospitals lose money on sick patients, really sick patients. Hospitals make money on elective surgeries and tests and procedural tests. They make money on hernia repairs and tonsillectomies, and that's where they make their money. Cataract surgery is a big money maker. They make it for MRIs, CAT scans, blood workups that can't be done, like at your local clinic, like really advanced. That's where they make their money. They make fat stacks. When they're filled up with a bunch of COVID patients and they can't do any of that stuff, they're not making money. So today, if that patient's a boarder, well, it's okay. We're making money. But in 11 days, it's not going to be okay because now we're not making money. So what can you do? Well, if you're in Washington State, because by the way, the problem of finding people to get them out of the hospital into long-term care, that is more of a unique Washington problem. Everything else I outlined, This is going on in your own state also. This is a national problem. Again, the nursing home issue is almost unique to Washington. So what can you do? Well, if you're in Washington state, you need to let your legislature know, hey, we have to fix this. You said you were going to fix it, you punted, and now it's worse. If you're anywhere else, don't say hold my beer and watch this, because there might not be a spot for you in the hospital. You know nothing, Jon Snow. You could say those words right now at military training camps all across Russia. And I'm going to be talking about what's going on and the situation in Ukraine next, because we're still covering that. And there's something that's not getting a lot of talk outside of the analyst community that deserves some coverage and to be talked about. Russia right now has a light infantry problem. They don't have enough light infantry. Their military isn't configured that way. They're configured for artillery and armor. But the problem is, if you capture territory, you want to hold that territory, you need grunts with guns. Artillery doesn't hold territory. Tanks don't hold territory. Grunts with guns do. And Russia's got a big shortage of grunts with guns. And they didn't have a lot to begin with. The Kremlin has asked all 85 federal subjects, that's what they're called in Russia, so think of them as like districts, for volunteer battalions. Each battalion should be made up of 400 soldiers, and they should be assembled within the next 30 days. They're going to get 30 days of training. You're like, 30 days of training? I was a Civil Air Patrol cadet. My encampment was 3 weeks long, right? And yes, we went to the rifle range when I was there, and we went for tank rides, and we learned how to load it. It was weird. It was at an army base, and they made us do a bunch of army stuff. They even had us do the obstacle course. Things were different in the 80s. They're going to get 30 days training. Their signing bonus, because they're volunteers, 6-month contract, their signing bonus, about $3,750 US. Their salary, $3,000 to $6,000 a month, depends on your specialty. You could be 18 to 60 years old to sign up. At $3,000 a month, right? We said their pay range for that 6-month contract, $3,000 a month. At $3,000, that is United States military E5 money. This is experienced soldier money, no experience required. You get let's do that again. You get veteran benefits on your return, even though you're a volunteer. It's a pretty good deal. In Zaporizhzhia, the casualty rate for volunteer soldiers in that oblast in Ukraine is 30% a month. Now remember, casualty doesn't mean KIA only. That could be wounded or code T200 left the chat, right? That's what casualty means. So when you hear casualty rate 30, you're lying. No, this is not. You're taking a dirt nap. This is both. I have to speak this way. I'm not because of TikTok, and we have to use Newspeak on TikTok. There's certain words you can't say for those in the other channels. By the way, if you want to watch in the other channels, I haven't called this out before. We're on Twitch, YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook right now. The easiest one is Twitch. You could just go to malcontentnews.tv. That'll take you right to our Twitch channel, and you get to see me in full screen 1080p and a lot more of the studio. And you also get to see more of the chat. Yes, Carol, I see your comment over here about BA5 on the earlier story. Yes, BA5 is a big issue. So on paper, if a battalion of 400 is sent with a 30% casualty rate a month, that means about 50 will come back home uninjured and alive. The other 350 are either going to be wounded or come back in a zinc coffin in 6 months. This is the Hunger Games. And I'm going to explain why this is the Hunger Games. And there's a bigger issue that. There's another thing. Remember I used the word battalion. Now, people who are military that are listening to this are probably already going, wait a minute, 400 is not a battalion. A battalion's 800 to 1,200, yes, exactly. But Russia has so few troops that they deployed their battalion tactical groups understaffed at the start of the war with a level of about 800. The target should have been around 1,200, so they were already short. More than a full company. Now the number's 400, so they've dropped it down to about 2 companies. So it's not even a full battalion. But there's another issue. Remember, each federal subject area has been asked to form a battalion. So Moscow has 11 million people. They've been asked for 400 volunteers within the next 30 days. Kinets Oblast, 42,000 people. They've been asked to send 400 volunteers within the next 30 days. This would be like the United States of America doing like a little stealth little deployment of troops and go, okay, each state, you need to send us 400 soldiers. Texas, you're gonna send us 400, right? Texas has the second biggest population in the United States. Wyoming, with only 550,000 people, you have to send us 400 people too. Do you see the problem with this? Because people in Eastern Russia see the problem with this, and there's a lot of ethnic minorities that live in Eastern Russia, and they're going, wait a minute, this is kind of Hunger Games-ish. May the odds ever be in your favor, but again, that's why they're offering $3,000 to $6,000 a month, because the average salary for someone in Russia is about $700 a month. This is a huge windfall if you can come back in one piece. But there's another problem, which goes back to the theme of this segment. Winter is coming. 85 districts. That means if they all sent 400 troops, that's over 34,000 soldiers. If you're pro-Russian, you're just like, yeah! 30 days training. Let's say they got their 34,000 troops ready for training on August 1. 30 days training, September 1. 7 days to get them to Ukraine. Because some of them are coming from way out east. I get it. Some of them are coming from Belgorod and they're in Ukraine in a few hours. But there's others coming from the Far East. They're on a train. It's going to take like a week. So we're just splitting it, right? Splitting the difference. That's September 8th. 7 days, they're going to get a little mini training when they arrive. They do. They get a little bit more training when they arrive in Ukraine. It's not really that much. And they get their kit. They get their boom boom. They hopefully get a ballistic protection. They might get a helmet. They get their kit. And all that assumes perfect world. So they're humping the bush, to use a United States military term. They're humping the bush by September 15. Do you know what starts in Ukraine between September 15 and October 15? The rainy season starts, and with it, mud. A reporter in World War II described Ukrainian mud in the fall as like standing knee-deep in maple syrup. Do you know what comes about 4 weeks after the rain? The snow. None of these troops are going to be getting combat training or survival training in just 30 days for winter combat. It's impossible. You're not going to be able to train them in that short a period of time to deal with late summer, fall, and then prepare. Winter training is a whole separate group of training you have to take. 6-month contracts mean they're going to be fighting on the frozen plains of Ukraine, where invading armies have gone to die for 1,500 years. And I know some of you are going to go, but well, Russia knows how to fight in the snow. This is the same army that was losing people in March in Ukraine to frostbite and hypothermia because they weren't equipped with winter gear, and they're in worse shape from an equipment standpoint now. Winter is coming. It's not on Russia's side, and neither is time. The truth matters. We said that we would do a section every one of these shows where we focus about the truth. And the truth matters. And in this segment, I want to talk about something that regardless of your political stripes, you could be a Bernie bro, you could be a Trump humping MAGA lover. This should infuriate you. And if it doesn't infuriate you, you're part of the problem. If you don't know who Janice McGeachin is, for those who are on TikTok, you didn't see the pre-roll intro. Janice McGeachin is the lame duck lieutenant governor of the state of Idaho. She ran in the primary. She tried to unseat current governor Brad Little, who is seeking re-election. Little got 53% of the primary vote. McGeachin got 32%. Hoomey got 11%. And then another long tail within their party got 4% of the vote. Idaho's fiscal year runs from July to June. So July 1 to June 30. That's when the fiscal year runs. But election cycles, you take office in January. So whoever becomes lieutenant governor in January of 2023 is going to have to count on the good graces of Janice McGeachin to leave some budget behind. Now, last week, McGeachin told the state that she was giving her administrative assistant a pay raise from $20,000 a year, working part-time, to, are you ready? Are you ready? $77,000. Yeah, but she's working full-time. Yes, she's going from part-time to full-time, and she got a $17 an hour raise. It gets worse. The job title has changed. She's like director of something, but the job duties, the official job duties, have not. Now, the state human resources director said, oh, hell to the no. When this comes across our desk, there is no way that we are approving this bump in salary. This is not happening. But in Idaho, because McGeachin is an executive representative of the state, she could do this with the stroke of the pen. And the state HR department has no say in it at all, because that's Idaho's law. Wait a minute, it gets worse. Last year, McGeachin had a budget shortfall. She blew her budget out of the water by almost 6 digits. And she had to lay off some of her staff and cut other bills. So the office is already short-staffed. But that's not all she's doing on the way out. She is burning through the entire fiscal year budget with the full intent of spending every penny of it before the new lieutenant governor comes into office. So that means whoever that new lieutenant governor is will have no budget to do anything, to hire staff, to even pay for a pen to sign an executive order, unless they pay for it out of their own pocket. Going to leave the new lieutenant governor with nothing. Now, I never mentioned political party in any of this, because as soon as I mention a political party, everybody then is either going to turn off, not going to listen anymore, or they're going to go, yeah, and that's why I say corruption is corruption, even if it is legal corruption. Well, the state says I could do this. I don't have to go through the HR. I can give my administrative assistant an extra $57,000 a year because I'm taking care of people from my own party, because that's actually what's going on there. And I'm purposely not talking about party. Purposely. Because I want people to listen to this. This is money of the taxpayers of the state of Idaho. It's your money. I'm going to move to opinion. I'm told that people in Idaho are pretty stingy when it comes to taxes and their tax dollars, and they don't like their tax dollars being wasted. I think you should be pretty outraged that McGeachin is going scorched earth on the way out the door when you consider her replacement will almost assuredly be from her political party. Who is she hurting in the end? Well, she's hurting the Idaho taxpayers, 32% of whom showed their loyalty to her when they voted for her in the primary. Maybe, just maybe, loyalty shouldn't be so blind to people and party. Think about it. Spokane, Washington. Spokane, Washington City Council yesterday did something amazing. They passed it in a 7-0 vote. Spokane, Washington, conservatives. If you're not familiar with Washington politics, all the liberal, first of all, Seattle's not if you're not from Seattle, it's nowhere near as liberal as you think. It just under the surface is a really conservative city. No, it's not. Yes, it is. People from Seattle, blow up the comments, please. Right under the surface, this area is really conservative. And you don't have to go too far outside of Seattle to find the other side. And when I say not far, I'm literally counting this in just miles in barely double digits. Spokane, Washington, much more conservative. That's red country out there. They did something amazing. 7-0 unanimous vote. The city approved a measure that changes the zoning laws in the city of Spokane. You will now be able to build a duplex, a triplex, or a quadplex anywhere in Spokane that has been zoned for residential housing. Anywhere. There is no limitation now from single family home to tri, or quadplex. This creates tighter communities. This adds affordable housing. This is better utilization of the space that is available. And this creates financial opportunity for the middle class. If you are older and you're looking at retirement, maybe you get a triplex. If you do it New England style, you get the 3-decker. I don't know why we don't do 3-deckers, by the way, here in Washington State. Like, I don't get it. If you've ever been, not so much as Connecticut, but Rhode Island, Massachusetts, they have these things, 3-deckers. It's like 3 houses on top of each other. They're nice. The ones that have been modernized, they're really, Worcester's full of them. And I don't understand why we don't do this in Washington. It's a no-brainer here. Let's say you're an older person, and I know some people are like, landlords are evil, and I get some people in our audience think that. Move out of that space. You're a retiree. You're going to be on a fixed income. Government's coming after your Social Security because it's a scam and you're not supposed to get it anyway, even though you paid into it for your entire life. But we're trying to convince you that you don't deserve it. So they could build a triplex or buy a triplex. The 2 people up above help pay for them. And then we as a society don't have to figure out some way to support, or worse, have them end up living in a camper somewhere. And that's not a unique Seattle problem. You go looking, you know where to look in places like Boise? You don't have to go too far out of Boise to find streets lined with campers and people living in them. If you're from Idaho, blow up the comments. Let them know I'm spitting facts. Yeah, are there downsides? Of course there is. They're gonna have to figure out parking. There's impact to traffic, trash collection, infrastructure, school staffing. This isn't perfect. But in Seattle, we can't figure this out. We're in the land of cash offers with no contingencies over the asking price, and that still rules the day. And the residents of Seattle are looking at Spokane and go, wait a minute, why can't we do that? They did it. How come we can't do it? I'm going to move to opinion again. Seattle, you voted for it. You voted for this. Last year, we had a busload, literally, of candidates running in primary to be the mayor of Seattle. We had 6 or 7 viable candidates, 6 or 7 people out of over 20 that were legitimately qualified to be mayor. When we interviewed, because we interviewed 6 out of the 7, we did long interviews with them last year. And the first question we asked all of them was about housing, because housing is a huge problem in Seattle. Seattle zoning laws were established in the 1920s, and they are fundamentally unchanged 100 years later. They're regressive, they're made specifically to benefit large real estate investors like Vulcan and turn property into a money-making machine. Remember what was going on in the 20s? This is before the stock market crash. The roaring 20s, the Gilded Age. If you're on the right side of the equation, this is a great time. If you're on the other side of the equation, you're like, my paycheck's shrinking, what's going on? And it all came down like a house of cards. Who benefits from all this? Well, real estate developers and agents do. We asked every candidate, what would they do to improve the housing situation in Seattle? And they all gave bland, artificial vanilla flavor answers. All of them. But you know why? because all of those campaigns were funded by the largest real estate developers in the Seattle area and the largest real estate agents. So people like to point at Seattle and the pictures of the campers and the tents that are tucked away in the back streets and neighborhoods like in Soto. But affordable housing is not a unique Seattle problem. This is a national problem. The price of housing, whether you're buying or you're paying rent, is one of the biggest drivers of inflation in this country right now. You do not have to spend too much time on TikTok looking for videos from people going, hi, how you doing? Yeah, I'm gonna be homeless next month because I live in this crappy apartment and I've been paying $1,500 a month and I just got this notice saying they're raising my rent to $2,500 a month. It's not an exaggeration because we gutted the laws to make these kind of things illegal along the way too. So while Spokane has made a decision to solve the future, Seattle's just maintaining the status quo. But the voters of Seattle said loud and clear last November, when they voted who they voted for, we like status quo. We don't want to change a thing. It's hard to find good news today. You have to admit that. It's really hard. There's not a lot of good news in the world. And we always try to end these shows with something positive. I think you noticed we kind of went with something heavy and we tried to lighten it up as we moved along on our topics. And this story is also out of, and I know this is very Washington focused show. There's just a couple of things that came out of Washington State which have national interest. And this one you might have heard about nationally. Yesterday, if you were driving on I-405 South and you experienced a traffic jam around lunchtime and the traffic had come to a dead stop, yeah, you see, there was a problem. A duck and her ducklings decided that there was better housing on the west side of I-405, just had to cross 6 lanes of freeway to get there. So she decided, I'm taking my crew across the highway. Now, in a world where there aren't a whole lot of good deeds happened. Traffic came to a stop and there was no drama. And as for the rest of it, for those of you who are on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook, take a watch for yourself. There is no audio with this clip, by the way, but you can take a watch for yourself. Yeah, that's right. It took about 10 minutes to get the ducks across the highway, but the ducks got across the highway safe, and there was no drama, and nobody was upset. The State Patrol actually got called to go like, we need help. We need help to get these ducks off of the highway. And by the time the State Patrol got there, people had sorted it out on their own. So shines a good deed in a weary world. By the way, I know a lot of people go, oh, that's Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Actually, it's Shakespeare. And I didn't know that. I actually learned it after, I attributed it to Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Gene Wilder's version of the story. But it is a line out of Shakespeare. So shines a good deed in a weary world. And our world is weary. I know I'm weary. We wallow in so much human misery in the news department. It's bad. And so stories like this, it's just good to know and to remind ourselves there are good people in the world who still want to do good things. I hope you've enjoyed the show today. If you did, if you're watching on TikTok, please go ahead and follow us. It'd really be appreciated. That helps us grow. Also, make sure you interact with our content because, quite frankly, the TikTok AI right now has its foot firmly planted on our windpipe. We're not being singled out for special treatment. This isn't pity party. They've tweaked the AI. A lot of your creators that you follow are probably also gritching about what happened to my views. Again, they changed the AI. We have to apparently do something different to keep them happy. And as soon as we figure out what that is, they'll change the AI again. If you're watching us on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, or Facebook, oh my God, I love that on TikTok. They have that. Whoever did that, that's amazing. So people on the other channels, you couldn't see it. They could put animations on the screen on TikTok. And there was a TikTok of a duck walking across the bottom of the screen. Somebody looked for that. That is amazing. Thank you so much, whoever did that. If you're watching us on the other channels, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, or Twitch, same thing. Give us a follow, give us a like, or on YouTube, please subscribe. Last thing, there it is, we have the duck again. See, so shines a good deed in a weary world. We're starting to create more content on YouTube. We have a video, our first investigative video. It is premiere. They're doing the duck over and over again on the other side. The duck is just going over. I love it. The duck's amazing. Patrons, I have to keep it together. I have to keep it together with the ducks. Patrons already have access to the video. I've even talked about being a patron. One of the best ways you could support independent journalism is by becoming a patron for as little as $5 a month. You get access to exclusive content, early content. We have a Discord server, so you can talk amongst yourselves in the Discord server. You get flash updates on the Russia-Ukraine war that only go out again to our subscribers. We have developed our own map for tracking what's going on in the war. We're also now tracking where HIMARS strikes are going on, where Russian missile strikes are going on. You can go on an interactive map, look at all that. That is something that everything there that I just listed off, that's $5 a month gets you that. $5 a month, you help keep the lights on. You help keep me out of corporate America because we've gone all in. All in. I got 6 months to make this work. And quite honestly, we've got to get the patrons up about 300% from where they're at. If we get the patrons up to 300%, then we're really off to the races. There's another thing. We've had a new writer. They started this week. Their first story is already up on the website, malcontentnews.com. You can also find us on the Google News app. Just go into Google News on the app, type in Malcontent News, make us a favorite. We have another writer joining the team, but I can't say who it is yet, but they're signed up. They're an employee or they're a contractor. They're all signed. And they're a TikTok creator. They have a following, maybe about 60,000 people. And they're pretty cross-channeled with us. And I know now people on TikTok are like, oh, who could it be? Who could it be? Who could it be? You're going to find out next week. They're working on their first story for the site. That story will go up this week, probably towards the end of the week, maybe over the weekend. And then we're going to make our big announcement on who that is. So we're up to 4 writers now. And if you've been following our website and there was no content for 2 months, what the heck happened? I was burned out. I just couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. It's too much. We got 4 writers now, and you probably have noticed, like, ooh, the pace is picking up. You're going to really see the pace pick up on the written website, and the stories that our writers are creating will start to be featured here on this show. I'm the Malcontent. Thank you so much for joining us today. It is really appreciated. I really appreciate your support. We're going to do this again Thursday. This is where I say Malcontent out.
Malcontent News is a team of journalists, activists, and researchers with 3 key missions. A commitment to show an unfiltered view of the before, during, and after of key events live as it happens. To defend the First Amendment using our rights of a free press. And to amplify the voices of underrepresented individuals including Black, Indigenous, persons of color, and the LGBTQIA+ community. Our team is committed to seeking equality for all and holding those in power accountable. The easiest way to support Malcontent News is to bookmark our website at malcontentnews.com, like and follow us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, and follow us on Twitter, TikTok, Twitch, Instagram, and in the Google News app. To provide financial support, you can become a patron, Make a one-time donation through Venmo, or link your Twitch account to your Amazon Prime account and use your free subscription to subscribe to Malcontent News. Thank you for supporting independent journalism and for being a malcontent.
You fit the profile! You're the malcontent!
Nobody wants to hear the nonsensical ravings of a loudmouth malcontent.
He said malcontents Antifa, fuck you!
You are the biggest hypocrite on the face of the planet.
I say that you're a terrible reporter. That's what I say.